Hi, Dr. McGinnis. This is Ted Isbell. I thought it might be easier to give you as brief a video as I can, trying to tell you how we got to where Janet and I are to these days, as opposed to writing a lengthy document. Um, and obviously, this is from my perspective, and I'm sure Janet would may have a different perspective in terms of what she sees as problematic and such. Um, the problem in my mind started many years ago, um, probably between our second and third child. Um, a lot of the issues, we never really argued a lot about money. Not saying we never had any disagreements on money, but money really wasn't the issue. It really dealt with more of our time in the bedroom and um, the fact of the matter was that um, my wife never really, um, in my mind, really gave of herself in the bedroom. Um, that led to a lot of frustration. Um, Many times over the years, I tried talking to her about it, and she would just, she would not um, agree with me, and we would go for weeks, sometimes months, without having any intimacy. And so, going back about moving forward through the years, again, we talked and talked and talked, but we never got anywhere. Um, and there were other issues too that would annoy me in terms of her timeliness. Her priorities would be very hard. Uh, in other words, it always seemed like she put everything and everyone else ahead of me. The children always came before me. The Her mother and family always came before me, and it was she had no real discretion when to take phone calls, when not to take phone calls. Um, it would sometimes interrupt our time uh, uh, together, whether it was intimate or just sharing, sitting down watching a TV show or something. Um, but about 4 years ago, I um, I sinned. I went outside the marriage. Over a period of time, I slept with different prostitutes, um, which I'm very sorry I did. But the fact is, I did do it. Um, it kind of came to a culmination. I was in New Orleans. I travel a great deal for business, and I got caught in a sting, and I was arrested for solicitation. Now, from the standpoint of the legal side and everything, all of that has been um, completely eliminated, taken care of. Um, I came home the day after that, confessed everything to my wife, wrote her a long letter. At that point, I gave her the opportunity if she wanted me to leave right then, I would. Um, but she said no. She said we're in this for better or for worse, and this just happens to be the worst. And I want to get through this with you. So that was um, very gracious of her, very merciful, and I really appreciated her um, being willing to work on our marriage. I went through some biblical based counseling for about a year with for a sexual addiction. Basically, just wanted to make sure we changed the behavior. And I went to a person that we'd found through Focus on the Family, a local guy here, and we did that for about a year. But that was entirely focused on me, and my root cause of problems. That I think if my counselor was here, he would. What kind of came out of all of that is obviously I made bad decisions, but my mother um, was also very. My mother was just promiscuous. She had slept around on my father and that type of thing. Years ago, that I had kept a lot of secrets in from all of that. But through this, Janet was supportive. Um, but again, we went for many, many months without any real, physical intimacy or intercourse. Um, there were times she would be very loving, but after that, she also could be extremely caustic to me, and didn't seem to matter what I said or what I did. She always took an opposing view. It was very difficult from that standpoint for me to, but I tried to keep it down. But my personality, we would have a lot of arguments, and it would continually come up where she was then rubbing the fact of my sin in my face. Um, it took me about a year before, even though I'd confessed it to the Lord, it took me about a year to come to the point where I forgave myself for doing what I did and really believing that the Lord loved me enough to forgive me for my sin. Um, Janet has said she forgives me, but all of her actions really don't display that at all. And so for it's been difficult for us to move on. Now, don't get me wrong, we've had times when things have been absolutely wonderful between us and with no problems. We've been close, we've been intimate, and then it's like the next week it'll all change again, and there was no consistency to anything, and frankly, I'm probably to blame for that as much as Janet is. Um, but like my therapist said, when I confessed everything and started getting help, I was recovering. But I know that Janet, that was new, a new, in essence, an injury for her, and it was very difficult for her to move forward. And I understand that, and I'm very sympathetic to that, and don't like to see her hurt like that. So, just moving forward, we've had more and more arguments here recently. What I guess I mean, there's a list of things that I think have been around for years that I think are problematic from my perspective. Um, Janet tells me I'm very prideful, but I don't feel like I have any pride left. But she says I'm still prideful. Um, so I guess I am. But I mean, she lives with me, but I'm not sure she sees all the change that I've went through. Um, and anyway, so getting back to our relationship, this last little blow up, wasn't a little blow up, but so my I just bought a Bahamas cruise package for us to go on, so we could try cruises. Um, Janet isn't sure she'll like going on a cruise, so I booked a short cruise. I booked us we have a vacation. We like Southern gospel music, and we were going to the Gaithers Gatlinburg gathering. We had that scheduled in August, and But this last time we ended up, um, this last week, we we had um, we haven't been together in bed for well over 3 months now, and nobody was home but her and I. And I approached her and I said, "Hey, let's go upstairs together." Um, so we get upstairs, we both get in bed, and it's kind of in the middle of the day. Is in the middle of the day, but she just starts complaining and telling me this or that, or I'm not doing this or I'm not doing that. Not in terms of what we're doing in bed, but in terms of other things. She just really starts complaining, a great deal. And I use a word I don't even, I can probably count on one hand how many times I've used it in our marriage, but I used the word damn, and I don't even remember the context that I did. Well, she hauled off and hit me in the face. Um, Again, I don't remember that as being like, just directed at her, but she said, "You're not gonna," she screamed at me, "You're not gonna curse at me," and she hit me across the face. And so I just got out of bed, put my clothes on, and we were in, then she got out of bed, she went into our closet, walk-in closet, and was putting her clothes on, and I was trying to get her to talk to me. And it's like, man, we can't keep going on like this with so much, anger, even when we're trying to get together. And I was blocking the doorway to the uh, the closet, and I know she'd made a big deal with my son that she felt physically threatened. Well, I never had any intent or anything, but I was standing in the doorway, and but I was trying to get her to talk, and she didn't want to talk. The So we ended up both leaving the bedroom. I went down to the study. Later that afternoon, she came by and she said, "Are you?" And I asked her, I said, "Are you ready to talk?" And yeah, there was probably an edge in my voice. And she says, "I'm not going to talk to you with an attitude like that." And it's like, okay. I uh, I I understood that after she said that. I realized, yeah, she's right, and I'm not ready to talk about it either. Well, the following day, the she walked by again, and I said, "Hey, are you ready to talk about this?" "I'm not going to talk to you with an attitude." And I said, "I don't have an attitude now," which I didn't. And she just kept on going. She said something, but I don't even remember what it was. But she was still angry. And later that day, I asked her again. "No, I'm not going to talk to you with an attitude." Well, that night, um, I thought she was, kind of creating a um, I thought she was creating or extending an olive branch because she fixed kind of my favorite meal, which is just very simply, spaghetti with meat sauce. And she, but after dinner, she was cleaning up, and I said, we need to talk. We need to," and it ended up we were yelling at each other, and yeah, we probably both said things we didn't want to say, but in the process, it's like my whole attitude. I don't remember even everything I said, but my whole attitude was, "What are we doing? You know, I mean, where are we going? This is gonna. We only have a couple of options, and I did use the word divorce in that because my frustration level has just gotten to a point. If we can't, and like I told her, I said, if we can't even talk about it, what are we doing?" And anyway, that we both left in a huff. Um, and I was really mad, I felt like anything that I had done, and I don't remember what was said to give me this idea, but I went and gathered the keys to both of our cars, brought them up. I really didn't hide them, but I did put them in my dresser drawer. And she comes up a little bit later. Where are the keys to the car? And I just said, I don't know where the keys are. Or I didn't say I don't know. I said, well, you don't need the keys to the car or something of that nature. Anyway, she got very hot that I wouldn't give her the keys of the car. And that was wrong of me, I know. But it's just so frustrating when I can't even talk to my wife and we can't have a normal conversation. It's like, what are we doing? Moving on. We kept arguing. Then my daughter walked in, and she started yelling. So I had both of these. My daughter's 22, just graduated college, finished college. They both are yelling at me, and it's like I told my daughter, I said, "You're not part of this. You shouldn't be part of this, but you are." And I said, just leave. Her name's Allison. I said, just leave, Allison. Go in the other. And it's like, no. And she started screaming at me. Janet was screaming at me. And frankly, I had just had enough. Janet got the keys to the car and left. And we had argued. During that argument, I said, you're not sleeping in